Excellent. So I think we'll go ahead and get started. Thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate you taking the time to sit with us for the Unison Summit, the Google Cloud and ASU session. Today we're going to be talking about data insights specifically around the Unison Data Platform and how you can use that to maximize inclusiveness and learning experiences for all of your learners. So with me today, we have myself. I'm Jess Masciarelli. I am an account manager for Google Cloud Higher Education and Research. We have with us today from Arizona State University, Matt Rhoton, the CTO at EdPlus. Matt serves as a Chief Technology Officer for EdPlus Arizona State University, and he is inspired by its mission, challenge, and purpose. We also have Jonathan Carroll with us. He is the Director of Learner Insights and Opportunity at EdPlus with Arizona State University, and Jesus Gomez, who is a Senior Strategic Business Executive for Google Cloud for Education and Research. Today, we're going to be talking about the Unison Data Platform in terms of how ASU, why they actually decided to go in this direction, and why they chose the platform. So we'll kind of start with giving EdPlus a chance to talk about who they are, what they do, and why learner insights are very important to them. And then we'll open it up for a panel session. We'll take about 20 minutes to have those questions on the panel, and then we'll wrap it up with about 10 to 15 minutes of a live Q&A. So I would just ask if everybody can mute themselves as we go through the panel sessions. That would be great. If you have questions, feel free to add them into the chat, and we can definitely answer those during the live Q&A session. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jonathan Carroll with EdPlus at Arizona State University.
Thanks, Jess. We're grateful to be here. Unison has been an amazing partner and grateful that we can collaborate on the Google Cloud platform. When asked to provide a quote, what I just could say is how Unison provides a near turnkey solution to provide our multi-LMS environment a place to grow and a place where we can use it. With the near turnkey just being because everyone's student information system is a little bit unique. And so how do we bring our uniqueness over to the standardization that Unison also provides from, in our instance, Canvas? So it's been a really good partnership thus far, and we're excited to keep going. As far as introduction on EdPlus, I'll leave it to my CTO, Matt Rhoton.
Hey, thanks, Jonathan. Thanks, Jess, as well, and Jesus for the invitation, and Unison as well, and Google for allowing us to be here with you guys today. Yeah, real quick, if you would change slides real quick, Jess, that'd be great. And we'll get in, I'll just briefly update folks on exactly kind of what EdPlus is at Arizona State University. EdPlus is a central enterprise unit for ASU, and we focus on the design and scalable delivery of digital teaching and learning. Our goal really is to reduce barriers to achievement in higher education. What our IT team at EdPlus, we're right around 80 FTE, and we're broken into 6 different verticals. We have a user experience and product team. We have an engineering team. We have Jonathan's Learner Insights team. We also have a data analysis team. We have a Salesforce group and a learning content strategy team. So that's the core of what builds our technology team at EdPlus. You can see here listed, we strive off of these 6 culture tenets. We serve learners, we achieve milestones, we strive for excellence, we solve problems, we feel a sense of urgency, and we are bold. So just to give you an idea, we did serve about 84,000 online students last year from over 100 countries. We've got a big task to follow, and obviously using technologies to help scale is a great benefit to us and the team that we have here with us. But I'll lead into the next slide and let Jonathan go into a little bit more detail on our architecture.
Thanks. So for our architecture and how Unison plays into it is almost exactly a year ago. Our Google Cloud team introduced us to the Unison team and to the Unison product, to where we can store our LMS and SAS data into our own GCP environment, to where it's our environment, our platform, our resources, with a near turnkey solution to bring in that SAS, student information system, and LMS, learning management system, into our projects in GCP, which kind of fit nicely because my background in foray has really been about behavioral data science, but within a marketing context traditionally, meaning Google Analytics. ASU has over 8,000 different websites, not just web pages, but websites within the ASU ecosystem. So canvas.asu.edu is one. ASU.instructure.com is one, etc. So we have 8,000. And so we've worked quite a bit to then have this Google Analytics data integrate into different systems with our Canvas user ID, our Oracle PeopleSoft student ID, our various Salesforce CRM IDs, but then still to have the LMS and SAS institutional data in the same environment for us to play with and to work with was a key mission. And so really for the past 5 years, we brought the marketing side into this to this point where we had it, and we were going to then manually do what Unison simply provides out of the box. So it was kind of perfect timing for us, because we wanted then to create the most complete behavioral data set that we could to do these 5 things. One, to provide insights and understanding, to do machine learning, but then not to just have that in some Data Studio, Looker, or Tableau dashboard, but to do something with it, to provide learner support, to personalize the experience and cross-channel engagement, which we'll get into later. So that's where we're at today. This is how we have brought in Unison within our very high-level overview of this architecture that we're playing with right now.
Great. Thank you so much, Jonathan and Matt. I mean, it's clear to see that there is a cross-section of what you're doing with learner data and learner insights and how technology supports that. So we really appreciate you providing that background. Now, just a couple of questions that we have for the panel. I'm going to ask you, Matt, first. Leading up to kind of all of this and evaluating, how did this journey begin for ASU? Where did what was kind of the critical point of making this decision to move forward in this direction with Unison?
Sure, great question, Jess. I would say our journey started with Google Cloud Platform probably about 8 years ago. We integrated with Google Analytics and then to BigQuery at that time. And then from there, we've just continued to grow. As I said just a minute ago, and Jonathan reiterated, we've got this massive web ecosystem across all of ASU. And just for the online students, we served 84,000 last year. So obviously thinking long-term and scale and growth, we have goals to get to 140,000 online students within the next few years. So utilizing technologies that allow us to scale at more of a rapid pace is something that we definitely looked into. And then also we had some previous partnerships with Google as well that we had great success with, and leaning on Google for that, and then moving into this Unison pipeline just really made sense for us. Jonathan's team is small but mighty as a data science team, and I guess instead of building a custom solution in-house, it just made sense to utilize Unison's product and use the Google Cloud infrastructure, to be honest with you. And again, we've been wanting to bring standards enterprise-wide and enriching data and building those solutions to support our learner success.
Thank you, Matt. Yeah, I mean, the number that you mentioned in terms of what you're looking to reach in terms of learners over the next couple of years, that is a significant number. So agility and scaling is really key. And that actually brings up another question. What impact do you see these solutions having on your learners and faculty? So we just talked about like the impact of being agile and scalable, but what other things do you foresee in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're already seeing some of that success, Jess. I would expect to see, improve the learners' academic performance and retention, and reduce this is a huge piece with higher ed. I mean, there is a very large bit of confusion. Higher ed is a complicated system. So any way that we can ease that pain for any oncoming or new prospective student, I think is going to be a win for us. We're also serving a lot of first generation students and non-traditional learners as well within our environment. And just small scheduling mistakes, I think, can have major consequences on their journey and how they see our service to them. So our goal is to help as many people as we can as possible and be successful in their education journey. I would say on the faculty side, we're definitely seeing more collaboration. A solution, I think the faculty member, the ability to learn from the students' behavioral data within the LMS is extremely important and allows for a better personalized response to all learners. So those would be, a few solutions that I'm looking for.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. Jesus, I'd like to open that question to you as well, obviously from the Google Cloud side, and working with institutions like ASU who are really doing some amazing and innovative things on the Learner Insights. What impact do you foresee that these solutions are going to have in terms of higher education?
Yeah, thank you, Jess, and thank you, Matt and Jonathan, for sharing your experience with UDP. What we are seeing in the industry is, as you all know, we are moving to a learner-centric model, right? And Matt and Jonathan just mentioned, we are receiving a new type of learners that we were not used to serve before, and that they need the best support possible immediately, right? And these type of solutions where you can aggregate data from different systems much more easier and help different teams to actually answer the questions that they have to answer much faster. It's going to bring tremendous value to those learners that need the help the most. What I see these solutions evolving are kind of the way that UDP has been designed for. The community can embrace a solution that will give them that well-rounded experience, a solution that, in one hand, give some out-of-the-box functionality that help you to bring value right away in the short term. And on top of that, solution that help you to customize it to your own institution. Like if you have seen the Jonathan presenting the slide, they have built their own implementation on top of UDP much more easily to bring their own needs and their own preference to the outcome. And this is the type of solution that we see working on higher ed, because every higher ed institution is different.
Yeah, thank you for that, Jesus. I think you bring up a good point about that. And so, Jonathan, you touched on this before as you were going through the architecture. That would be really interesting for you to kind of expand upon how this has impacted your team, and from a perspective of how you also see this impacting your team as you continue utilizing the Unison Data Platform.
Yeah, and I'd start off with saying, in the best way, how it's not impacting my team by design. Of Unison is making it so easy to get that data into a spot to where it's in BigQuery, it's in Cloud SQL, to where we can do something with it. But furthermore, like there's a myriad of ways to get Canvas data into a CSV, get Canvas data into a warehouse. But what I'm excited about with what we're doing with Unison is the entire architecture is within ASU's environment, to where the pub/sub message that is receiving those real-time Canvas events can then also be listened to be leveraged for real-time interventions. What Matt was talking about is regarding some of those things, to where we are intervening using integrations between the Google Cloud and the Google Marketing Platform, using a tool on the GMP side called Google Tag Manager, to then be able to inject custom code inside the LMS at real time based upon user attributes and behaviors that we define. Traditional LTI, learning technology integrations, require you to go to a specific area of the LMS to engage with that necessary content. if you have this really cool third-party tool, well, you still have to navigate to it to open it up. But with what we're doing with the Google Cloud and Google Marketing Platform integrations, we are now not limited to a specific place in the LMS. So we can intervene and have critical messages pop up at the right time for the right individual during the right class. But that needs to be based upon who the actual student is, what's their official record, to know that we are dealing with them appropriately. And we have these capabilities, but we didn't have the confidence in knowing who the student is, their critical background and their affiliation with our institution. And that's what Unison is providing us. And so, and making it nearly turnkey, to where we can be aggressive with how we serve students, be less reactive and more proactive, but making sure that our systems of record are driving the innovative work that we're trying to do.
Thank you, Jonathan. You make it sound so easy. And that brings up another question, that's top of mind. What were some of the considerations, things that you had to take into consideration when approaching this project? And what, if any, were some lessons learned along the way? And Matt, I'll also open this up to you first. I think it's important to get both sides.
Yeah, for sure. Jess, I think obviously going into a new type of technology, bring a new tool into the team, it's always about cost, at least on my end, and meeting the budget for that year. And the ongoing maintenance and support, that's number one out of the gate for us. So that, like I mentioned earlier, building something in-house to do what Unison's doing for us wouldn't be feasible as well. So utilizing resources for years or two moving forward, when we could just basically plug and play with Unison. So that made sense for us. And then at ASU, we're a big organization. So we obviously, as a kind of a sub department of ASU as EdPlus, we have to work with our internal security office team and obviously our LMS data as well, and make some of those connections and integrations. But for the most part, it was pretty well plug and play internally. So it was great. And again, like I mentioned before, we've partnered with Google before, so we knew we had your support. And we did some, I can let Jonathan go into detail on it, but we did some predictive modeling with Google as a previous project, and kind of led into this as well. So great success there all the way around. Jonathan, you want to add anything?
Yeah, and with the question of things to consider, and I definitely cost is one, but then it becomes the conversation of buy versus build. And to be honest, it made sense for us. I'll just say that much. And things to consider is this is a net new area. So for my team in particular, for a sense of ownership that EdPlus is wanting to take on as a strategy. So in addition to Unison and Google, I see in the participant list, individuals from Unicon. So if there's something that you don't know, I've been grateful for the transparency and openness from Unison and Google to bring on partners who can help us as well in areas where my team is comparatively weak. We definitely had to make sure it's secure, but so that was a definite consideration. So this went through a internal security review. And I am aware that so Unison does a great job with the consortium to where data is shared. It goes into managed environments. Right now, we're participating with the extent of to where our data is within our environment. And because Google's already a trusted partner of ASU with certifications in place, it was smooth sailing, really. It's because it's going into ASU-owned GCP projects. If you assume that the concept of cloud computing and the security of those platforms, we're good to go. So those are considerations. The security review, the nuances of our own SIS we use Oracle PeopleSoft. And so getting that in place, grateful for the collaborations between Google, Unison, and partners that they brought on, like Unicon, have really helped us get to where we are now.
Thank you, Jonathan and Matt. And that's actually very insightful. I think, that's one of the things, if I'm an institution saying, hey, I really want to do this, this sounds great, this is exactly where I want to go with, my organization. The question I would have is, what are some of the things that, from a lessons learned perspective, that you might have for these other institutions who are with us right now?
I could start real quick, Jonathan. I think just it's a great question. You know, it's always a big decision moving into new technology and onboarding that. I would say, like, you know, I would open our door as well as we've gone through it. You know, reach out to us for information, additional information. We can provide you with, you know, things that we've learned and so on. And if it's the best fit, I know every organization is different. So obviously we were looking at our tech stack and how we do things internally. I think that's important start for you as well, to really look at how you're structured and where your goals are and where you need to be in the next 3 to 5 years. And if this tool is going to get you there or help you get you there. I think, like Jonathan iterated on as well, is like, he doesn't have a huge team. So we wanted more of a plug and play tool. And so, you know, he's got a couple of FTE on his team that are diving in here and really picking this up and taking it where we need it to go. But overall, like, I would open up our pipeline to where we'll be fully transparent. If you guys have questions for us, we'd be glad to help as much as we can internally. So, Jonathan, anything else?
When your CTO says we'll be fully transparent with their pipeline, I guess that's a good offer to take. Yeah, I mean, to be honest, so like, I think it would be unrealistic to say a completely turnkey solution. So that's why it's like near turnkey. And just the fact that everyone's student information system is different means that there's going to be some level of customization to an extent. And so as far as lessons learned, find someone who is an expert with your SIS environment to be able to make sure that you can map the fields where they need to go to join with your LMS data. I would definitely give that lesson learned, and so that'll help accelerate your implementation tremendously. Because really the caliper data, the LMS side of it, that is entirely turnkey, and it's really cool to see that turn on. We have one LMS environment that has no SIS, so literally, like, we simply turned it on and data was flowing. We can see the data come into BigQuery tables in real time, and it was, you know, it was really exciting for people that enjoy that kind of stuff. Another thing too I'd recommend is in different organizations that I'm part of, for more of the marketing context, data within universities and institutions is traditionally fragmented, and the Google Marketing Platform is no exception. There is tremendous value when you can have both your like official LMS data and then non-LMS data in the same environment. I'm a firm believer that learning does not happen exclusively inside the LMS. You know, we are a research-led institution, and our faculty research is on their own ASU domains on completely different websites. We have a library with amazing resources. We have a global search where anywhere within our domains, you can search for something and find it. All of those don't feed into LMS data, but it is somewhere within our environment. So if you can be a champion to get your behavioral data outside of the LMS unified to a point to where then you have that entire view of the individual across your enterprise, to what Matt was talking about earlier with our propensity modeling inside of Google AI, you can do amazing things. And so we're excited now to join the official LMS and SAS data into our modeling effort to accompany what we're doing just with Google Analytics across the enterprise. So to boil it down, 2 considerations, lessons learned: find someone who is an expert with your SAS environment and data, and then be a champion with tools like Google Analytics to have a single view across your enterprise and have it integrated with your LMS and other identifiers, complying with terms of use and privacy regulations. So then that way you have the power of Unison, the power of Google Marketing Platform inside the Google Cloud Platform to do some pretty amazing things.
Thank you, Jonathan. And in fact, I think calling out, finding those specialists and partners that can help is a very key point to make. And in fact, Linda Feng, who's with Unicon, they have a session and it's in chat. So if anybody wants to visit that, I think that would be a really great session as a follow-up to this one. One of the two last questions I have for the panel, and then I'm going to open it up for live Q&A. And Jonathan, this is directed at you, and then Jesus. I think it would be great if Google Cloud could chime in. So this is from the UDP perspective, when you're thinking about this, and you've mentioned that you're very familiar with a Google Cloud Platform and Google Marketing, but where does this actually fit in? So where does UDP fit in the broader technology landscape? And if, I'm thinking about, again, an institution that might have some familiarity with Google Cloud, maybe they're new to it, what would you recommend for them?
Yeah, so within this environment, where does Unison sit? So, I mean, caliper data from the actual LMS is our system of record for LMS data, period. Anything that Google Analytics can get out of the Canvas environment is secondary. It could be a really nice secondary, but not our system of record. So that's why that's the piece that Unison plays in our setup, is to provide that system of record for LMS data as provided from Canvas, plus all the context as to who those individuals are and their affiliation with our institution from our SAS integration. That's where it plays. As far as those that are possibly new to the like real robust things besides just tinkering in Google Ads on the Google Marketing Platform and then bring that into BigQuery, like it's a fun combo. In the past, the currently most widely used instance of Google Analytics is Universal Analytics, or now like GA3 as some people call it. You had to pay like a licensing fee to get the ability to then stream that data into BigQuery. But now with GA4, and now like everyone's now flocking to, you don't have to be a paying member of Google Analytics to get that feature to have all of that Google Analytics data stream into BigQuery. So if you're new to it and you just want to learn, like absolutely, like go adopt that, make the link to BigQuery so you can start to have the historical data. Once you want to start to report and build these models, you have to train your models and test your models off of historical data. And so it really sucks when you get to an awesome point, like I have these integrations, you're like, but I can't do anything with it yet because I have no historical data. Integrating GA4 to BigQuery is one way just to turn on that data stream. So when you are ready to integrate it with your Unison data, you have historical data to begin to train your models. So that's what I share on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Jonathan. Jesus, from the Google Cloud perspective, we talk a lot about student success and what that looks like and how we enable those technologies. So where does UDP fit in within the student success portfolio, and moreover, what do you see the future of it?
Yeah, so as Jonathan mentioned, it is a great solutions to help institutions to gain insight for all type of learners, move to a proactive support rather than reactive. What that means for student success is that if we help different teams to adopt this type of solution, they will be able to actually provide a greater value much faster to all type of learners, right? From the Google side, we are very aligned with what Matt and Jonathan describe as goal of EdPlus, of bringing good quality of education to all type of learners, regardless of their institutions or the background. And this is something that we really like from the Unison community, the willingness to actually open the technology to everyone. From the Google side, we are helping in two ways. One is we're partnering with Unison, with UDP, with trusted partners like Unicon to make sure that any institution, regardless of how many IT resources you have, you can easily adopt this type of solution and customize to your needs. And second, we are actually contributing back to the community. We know that the community is really important. What we are doing is, for example, we are starting out of another initiative with R1 institution where we're actually funding the development of new connectors to new LMS and the creation of dashboard that we think is relevant. And our intention is open source it, giving it back to the community. And this is the approach that we are going to expect if we facilitate adoption of the solution and we facilitate sharing best practices, we will help each other. I think everyone is very well aligned on that.
Awesome. Thank you, Jesus. Yes, I think that is, the common ethos that we share is how do we help our learner communities. So Jonathan and Matt, to either one of you, what is next for EdPlus?
That's a big question, Jess. We have, like I said earlier, we're like our President Crows really want us to get to 140,000 online learners. And I don't know if everybody's familiar with EdPlus, but give us a look up. We've built some tremendous partnerships over the years with Starbucks and Uber and Air University, and we just started another one with YouTube and Google called Study Hall. If you haven't seen that, that's another avenue that we're trying to bring some additional learners in. And again, to Jesus, Jonathan, all of our points is, the world just went through a global pandemic, and so we're seeing all different types of learners coming to us, and the quicker that we can better understand them and reach out to them with their specific needs is so important to us. So that's just part of it. And I'll mention one thing. This is President Crow for ASU is just incredible. And I'll just mention this comment he made during an executive meeting, the first part of the pandemic. And this is for ASU. He said 3 things. He said ASU is essential, as in that we serve the students in our communities. Number 2 is we're adaptive. So we need to be able to make quick changes where we see fit, depending on what's coming at us. At that time, we were living in real time. Like, we didn't know what was going to happen next week or 2 weeks from now. But the third, I think, was the most important. He said, use this as an innovative moment. And so we've really kind of sucked that in at EdPlus to really take that time during the pandemic to really push our innovation and ideas and try to figure out, what's next in the next 2 to 5 years for us and for learners, and where are they going to be. We saw a big uptick in that hybrid model of, more people coming in from, remote. And so being able to adapt to that was important for us. And so those 3 key points from President Crow really stuck with me ever since he said that. And we focus on that all the time at EdPlus. Jonathan, anything else?
In my smaller subset of your world, I'd say and also a question I see is like where are we going? What's next is the adoption of more cloud engineering, cloud solutions. And then what I feel passionate about and see a big value in is understanding who it is we serve. Like, part of the ASU charter is assuming fundamental responsibility of the communities we serve. And also we measure ourselves by inclusivity, not exclusivity, in how they succeed. With all the different changes in learning modalities, it's not like we just can't rely on the traditional faculty member sees a student isn't engaging. We can't see that a student isn't looking at people in the eyes and just face down. Like, we need to be able to understand how the learner is engaging with us across our ecosystem, whether it's in person, online, hybrid, whatever. And so then being able to then confidently associate behaviors to a known identity, and then feeding those into service operations is going to be, I think, a huge differentiator between those who thrive in this post-COVID world and those who don't.
Yeah, we at Google Cloud also agree as well. I think it's, we're seeing when we work with our institutions, to your point, that non-traditional learner and how they actually learn is different modalities than what we've seen in the past. So it is something that, we as a community all need to address. So I do want to leave the last couple of minutes, about 10 minutes that we have for some Q&A. We already have some coming in through chat. I'm going to start kind of with the first one, and then I'll open it up if anybody wants to come off mute. So this is from Fernando. And I think this would actually be a great question for you, Matt. What trends and innovation do you see education institutions moving towards in the next 3 to 5 years? I think you kind of already answered some of that, but if you wanted to expand.
Yeah, sure. Again, the learner agency, as Jesus called it, centric model type of more approach, but internally we call it like more of a learner agency model, to bring learners in at all ages, at anywhere along the path of where they are at, school-wise, if they've started, if they've not, but providing that personalization using these type of tools. Like on our website now, we've recently developed a tool that we call Soft Profile. And in that Soft Profile, we're not trying to cram just a request for information form in somebody's face. We want to get to know them a little bit better. And so if we can understand them, then we can provide that content via email communications or text or any form of chat whatsoever. So those are the ideas that we're looking at right now. I think another one too is more of the immersive technologies, other ways and other platforms to learn. This would be another great thing to look up, our partnership with Dreamscape Learn. We're taking kind of a standard biology course, and we've partnered with Dreamscape, and now our students on campus can come into these pods of high immersive learning that have haptics and fans, and they go into a biosphere of to learn in a more digital way that is more game-like, and we're seeing great success. All of this is tracked, where we keep data on everything, and so we're seeing great insights from the students and how much easier it is to learn and pick up some of these biology terms and things moving forward. So a lot of new innovative things coming up. And really, I noticed at the last GSV conference, immersive technology was highly talked about. So I could see that coming up rather quickly in the next 3 to 5 years. Jonathan, anything else?
I think you covered that well. I see some questions down here that seem fun to answer too. But
yeah, go for it.
Yeah, so I think one of the questions is, and this, Jonathan, actually, I think would be one that we can, I'll have Jesus answer this one and then you. How can institutions leverage Google Cloud to better support our students in and out of the classroom? And that's basically ways to connect students to other non-academic groups, tutoring, et cetera. So those non-degree seeking programs. So Jesus and then Jonathan, if you want to expand upon that.
I can just build on what Jonathan mentioned about gaining insight that help you to become proactive than reactive. Like, for example, when you adopt this type of solution, you can predict. We have even out-of-the-box model that we have developed with the community to predict academic performance for a student. So you know where there is a drop at risk, for example. The other thing is the dashboards that we have built with the community help you to understand what is the difference between a student that are doing well and that they have a high level of engagement with the rest of the students. That information can be provided to the groups that are going to provide support to the student. So every morning they can say, like, okay, what is the difference between a student with this profile or in this program with the rest? And we are going to help them to find the answer that they need to answer, right? One other thing is that you can even automate many of these actions. Like, once you get a flag, this is something that our partners can help you to do. You can communicate, you can trigger the right action. One of the things that we are doing is we understand that it's not only about adopting great technology, it's even about adopting your processes to that new technology. And one of the things that we are bringing as well is partners with more than 20 years on EDU that will help you to change your process and even your change management, communication plan, etc., to help you to become more proactive, as Jonathan mentioned. Jonathan, what do you think?
Yeah, so as far as getting students more involved in other things outside of the quote-unquote traditional classroom, 2 solid examples that are implemented right now are, one, so Jesus mentioned like drop risk. So there are financial ramifications of dropping courses after certain deadlines. And then if they can't pay back those fees, they can't even re-enroll into their program. And so it's like a vicious cycle. To the Matt's point, when we're serving so many non-traditional learners who don't understand these things, like higher ed is doing a disservice to the learner. So what can we do to then make intervene at critical times? So we all have like understandings of when people add and drop from a course. But then tools like the Google Marketing Platform integrated with the Google Cloud Platform is when they simply click, there's no official record yet because they haven't completed any official transaction, but they're engaging inside of our SIS, for us, Oracle environment, to where when they are clicking on the word drop, and then, okay, well, then we know they're clicking on that, and we associate it to the known identity. Then we bring that into real time into our systems to then say, this individual just abandoned a drop in their course. We know who we have a success coach, so it's a one-stop shop to support the learner who their assigned success coach is. Then we have webhooks that then send it into Slack, into a Salesforce task or case. So then be able to notify, hey, this person who is a first-time student is only enrolled in one course, just try to drop that course. Do you want to go intervene to see how they are doing? What needs do they have? Inside the LMS, we have environments to where, okay, we know who the student is, we know what their major is from within UDP. They're taking a more difficult math course than they really need to. And so based upon those affiliations and understood attributes of the individual, we then use integrations between GCP and GMP to then load intervening modals, just say like, hey, like, are you sure you're in the right class? And then they can choose, yes, I am, or no, I'm not, or let me speak to an advisor. And so for those more scalable things, when they say, oh, I want to go talk to my advisor, or I want to go check my major map, it's cool. We help them help themselves. If they choose things like, no, I'm in the right class, but really we know like they don't really have to be, then we can escalate that to get a human involved, like their success coach, to then intervene. So we can have this kind of support be scalable and automated, but when it goes to a point where we still think they could use some extra help, that's when we get our human resources more involved. So there are numerous ways to use GCP to help students in and out of the classroom. You just have to make sure that your data is there, it's integrated, and you can associate it to a known identity. And once you do those building blocks, it becomes really fun because you can see concrete examples of how you're changing students' lives.
Thank you, Jonathan and Jesus. I think we have time for probably about 2 more questions, maybe 1 more. And this kind of builds upon what we were talking about earlier and even just recently. The next question is, what do you recommend to institutions facing roadblocks or pushbacks from those not ready to fully embrace modernization yet? I think, Jonathan, that was, along the lines of when we were talking about what are the lessons learned. And certainly, I think that, this conversation is something we all have these conversations about how we can use technology to advance data insights for learners and help them along their journey. But there's always this period of change, right? And so how do you address that, and how do you recommend other institutions navigate that within their organization?
I can start, Jess, if you want, and then Jonathan, you can chime in. Kyle, this is a great question. Internally at EdPlus, what we try to do is to build a quick POC or proof of concept, be it a couple of months worth or 3 months, just to show that return on investment long-term. If you can take that to leadership and that data, those insights that you've learned over that time period to leadership, and then have to use that as a proof point, I think that is a good way to really kind of share and for them to learn and embrace that new modern kind of more technique like type of activity. But it's been a difficult thing for us internally as well. Like Jonathan and his team, they've had to go around to different departments at ASU and do what we call road shows and really share about, amongst everybody of not everybody's on board with this. So Our goal is to obviously get it more enterprise wide, and we've been working on that as Jonathan's team's been more strategy for the broader university. So those are a few ways, but we really focus on building out POC, proof of concept, and even just spend a month or 2 months internally moving that forward to see where that gets you.
I would just echo, Matt, what you said. Prove by doing, proof of concept, and then don't be afraid to fail. Keep your information security office close, your best friends. It's great for job security. But don't be satisfied with the status quo, because higher ed is in a great position to do just that. But we have a responsibility to do so much more. And so don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to innovate. Be friendly. Like in the end, I believe kindness always wins. So prove by doing, like do the hard work to prove it out. And if you don't own all the data for your entire organization, or you don't have access to it, do it just for yours and prove how well you can do. And so why doesn't someone else want to participate with you? So that's what I'd say.
Thank you both. I think we have time for one more question, and then we'll wrap up. And any other questions that come along, I think Jonathan and Matt, please correct me if I'm wrong, but it sounded like you guys are both willing and open to talk to other institutions about your experience and answer those questions. So I think this is a fantastic question to end on because we have been talking about inclusivity. So the question is, and I'm going to open this up to the panel, whoever wants to answer it. You mentioned inclusivity is important, and accessibility and neurodiversity are an important part of inclusivity. How have you considered the different needs of disabled and neurodiverse learners in your data collection and interventions?
Yeah, I can go if you want to then add, Matt. Kind of two areas. One, absolutely, as far as that being a core tenet of who we are. From a digital ecosystem, we have what's called a Web Standards Governance Board, to where accessibility is a core tenet of what we monitor across the university. We use tools like SiteImprove to make sure that we are doing well there, and monthly meetings to where there's hundreds of web and digital staff and faculty who we review every department and domain's scoring as to how we measure ourselves for accessibility. An example of how we have data feeds going in from those neurodiverse learners. An example is, and I can get you in touch with other people within our group because Matt said so. But I'm not the expert here, but I can speak a little bit to it. It's the difference between a click and blur. Seeing of like people who actually click on things, or people might that use a device that simply tabs through elements on a page. It's not technically a click, but it's a blur. And we have different, and we make sure that we are including all the different types of engagement with elements within our ecosystem to make sure that we're capturing those too. So that's an example, and also by principle with how we measure ourselves and tools that we use, and hopefully that was helpful.
Thank you, Jonathan. Well, thank you again to Jonathan, yourself, to Matt, our partners at ASU, EdPlus, Jesus, thank you so much. Thank you to our partners at Unison and Unicon. We really appreciate your time. This has been a wonderful project for my team to work on, and we look forward to all the amazing things our organizations are going to do together in the future. Thanks, everyone.